Hey folks, it's Real Honesty with Jar Mitlin. I'm Jar Mitlin, and at the suggestion of Alfredo Reyes, that's Alfredo and then Reyes 24 on Twitter, at the suggestion of him, because he saw my end of year stuff, and hey, I'm doing end of year stuff for NXT and WWE, which I already did those. Check out those shows, awesome. Why not rank every single takeover and WWE pay-per-view event from worst to best? I actually said, do best and worst. I figured just do like what I did with the Starrcade history series, which, by the way, check that out. 8-part series I did. Really cool. I enjoyed doing that, and I got a lot of good pub back from it. This is me ranking every of the 20 events, and yes, I'm including Roadblock, not End of the Line, but the March edition that they did, even though it was a glorified house show with a couple big stars. I'm also including the takeover events, because I figured that way instead of because there's only 4 takeover events, ranking those worst to best, that list would take me 2 minutes. And this one probably isn't going to take me long because I've talked about them at length on other shows. So I'm basically just going to list a match why. That's about it. Anyway, without further ado, top 20. Really quick list. Number 20, Fastlane, because unnecessary and it was shit. The women's tag match was fine and a couple other matches were fine. Ziggler versus Owens was fine, but other than that, not very good at all. And a very unnecessary pay-per-view. Roadblock in March. Triple H versus Dean was good. Charlotte versus Natalya was good. But the thing is, the whole thing felt unnecessary. It was good for views. I got a lot of good views on my review that I did earlier in March, and that was fun. But yeah, it was an unnecessary pay-per-view or special event or whatever. I don't even know if you call them pay-per-views anymore because do any U.S. providers still carry them on pay-per-views? On pay-per-view, like even Mania. I don't know. I think it's all network exclusive. I don't know. Maybe somebody can answer that. And speaking of WrestleMania 32 is number 18 because it was absolute shit. The women gave a really solid effort. Becky, Sasha, and Charlotte, and even the women in the 10 women tag match was on the pre-show was fine for what it was, in spite of Eva Marie being involved and Lana just learning to wrestle. But I'm putting Lana way above Eva Marie because Lana at least seems to want to be there, and Eva Marie just isn't any good. It's also the last pay-per-view I believe we saw Paige on. I don't know. She might have had another pay-per-view match. I don't remember. Mania 32 had a really cool look as far as like being a big crowd, but it was shit. It just wasn't any good. It's not for lack of effort from the wrestlers. The whole show fell flat to me. Roadblock End of the Line is number 17 because really besides Neville's heel turn and Cesaro, Sheamus winning the tag titles, and Owens winning by DQ, there really wasn't much to the show. By the way, I did a review of Roadblock End of the Line 2 days ago with my friend Chris. That was awesome. Check that out. It's on my timeline. Chris, really awesome that he's allowing me to be over at his house, interact with him, and hang out and everything, and he's watching wrestling with me. It's great stuff. But we enjoyed that. But Roadblock End of the Line was just I think it was like a C-grade pay-per-view that I gave it. Number 16, Clash of Champions. There was no pop to it. It's like all the matches had some of the matches had weird finishes and everything just seemed rushed. And Reigns versus Rusev was a fine match, but we all knew what was going to happen, and they haven't had Reigns really defend the U.S. title at all since. And it's like maybe with the exception of a couple shows, it's been absolute crap. And it was a show that had no pop to it. Like the Raw pay-per-views have not had a lot of pop to them. SmackDown pay-per-views have been better, in my opinion. And these are the brand exclusive ones. So yeah, number 15, NXT TakeOver The End, because it was the most unnecessary TakeOver event that they did. And that's not knocking it. The effort was fine. Balor Joe was good. Revival versus American Alpha 2 was good. Nia versus Asuka wasn't very good. There were a couple other matches that were decent, but not great. But yeah, it's just NXT TakeOver at the end was just it just felt unnecessary. It wasn't a bad event at all, but it just felt like the most unnecessary takeover. Like a way to just hold it from, it's like, okay, we did the one in Mania, we're doing Brooklyn, okay, we gotta have a takeover event here. So yeah, that's my opinion. No Mercy is number 14. Ziggler versus Miz saved this show. The triple threat between Styles, Ambrose, and Cena going on first because they were worried about the presidential election. They figured they'd put their main event on there. Okay, whatever. Miz and Ziggler should have closed the show, in my opinion. Orton versus Bray shouldn't have. But despite Harper coming back, that was pretty cool. Yeah, the whole thing. And even like you had Alexa versus Naomi in a quick match, or like a quickly put together match because Becky had an injury or a non-contact injury she had to go to the hospital for. But yeah, just No Mercy just was weird. If they had booked it how they should have, and had Ziggler and Miz close, if they had changed the match setup, maybe it would have been better. But it wasn't that good of an event. Despite a couple solid matches, in fact, Ziggler versus Miz might be a potential match of the year candidate with how great it was. Still say the Miz should have won and continued on his long IC title reign of almost a year because they ruined that. It still was a show that felt a little flat. And speaking of flat, SummerSlam ranks just above No Mercy because it had Cena versus Styles and a couple others. But Orton versus Lesnar did nothing for me, and a couple of the other matches did nothing for me. For the biggest party of the summer, it was one of the worst editions of SummerSlam they've done in a while, and that's saying a lot. Extreme Rules, Styles versus Reigns was good. The IC title match was good. Everything else just was, I don't know. I don't remember much of some of the rest of the card, but obviously that doesn't speak highly because I was not that interested. I mean, it's actually number 12 for a reason. It has some good matches, but it ranks in the worst part of it because once you get to 10 on up, that's the best parts. It had some good potential, but it wasn't the worst show I'd seen. But I called it Extreme Disappointment Rules on my YouTube channel for a reason. You know, on my review that I did of it, like right after the show, there's a reason I did that. Because it had some disappointment, and they had the Usos in there for some reason, and they booked Reigns to look like Superman, and that didn't work because he ended up getting suspended by the next pay-per-view. That was fun, or right after the next pay-per-view. Hell in a Cell, all the Hell in a Cell matches were fine. The women should have spent more time in the cell and less time brawling, but at least they tried to make every match different. That was fine. Reigns versus Rusev was a good Hell in a Cell match, but Rusev basically kind of got buried there. And Owens versus Jericho, or Owens versus Rollins with added Jericho, because he had to come in and interfere. That was fun. That was a fun match, and that was probably the best Hell in a Cell match they had on the show. And it wasn't an overall horrible card, but it wasn't great. It had some issues. Number 10, NXT TakeOver Brooklyn. As good as this card was, it actually is the third lowest ranked takeover on this list. It had some good matches, but it did have some issues. Namely that there were a couple just squash matches. Like, I mean, Rude versus Almas, which wasn't bad. I mean, Aries versus No Way Jose actually was a pretty good match, but then you had Ember Moon basically squash Billie Kay. But it needed to happen because Ember Moon is just being introduced as a character. Billie Kay is still a project that has time to grow. Nakamura versus Joe was good, and my God, Revival versus Gargano and Ciampa was also very good. But it ranks here because it wasn't as good as Brooklyn the previous year, but still a really good event. Payback, also very good. IC title match, and just a lot of really, really good stuff on that card. I really enjoyed Payback. I thought Payback was a lot better than I thought it would be. Money in the Bank. Seth wins the title back. Dean cashes in. That was good stuff. And you had Styles beat Cena. I was shocked. I was like, oh my God, Styles beat Cena. I can't believe it. And he beat him. I mean, granted, it was like every finish was kicked out of multiple times, but my God, I was so shocked. I'm like, I mean, still, even though the club interfered, it's like, still, I'm like, oh my God, he beat Cena. They should have had Cena lose clean. They did at SummerSlam, so they made up for it. But still. Money in the Bank, though, was a fun event. I enjoyed it. Battleground, I enjoyed just a little more. Zayn versus Owens in particular, the Shield 3-way. And Bayley debuting, that was class. Backlash I enjoyed because Dean lost to Styles in a pretty good match. They had better matches after that, especially TLC. I will get to that. But Backlash I thought was really, really good. You had Ziggler, Miz. You had a good layered card. the first ever Tag Team Champions crown, first ever SmackDown Women's Champion crown. Really good. I enjoyed that card a lot. Number 5, TLC. TLC was great. I did a review of it. Check it out. You'll get more in-depth stuff on my take on it. I didn't love everything about it, but I loved more than enough about it to rank it here at number 5. Number 4, NXT TakeOver Toronto. Rude and Dillinger getting huge home country welcomes. Gargano and Ciampa Gargano and Ciampa versus the Revival, 2 out of 3 falls match. Unbelievable. Great. Best tag match of the year, easily. Revival are going to be... If Vince actually has half a brain and pushes them right, he's got stars on his hands for 10 more years. Revival are fucking gold. But yeah, that was great. Yeah, Joe Nakamura, which wasn't bad. It was a good main event, but I almost felt like the tag match should have been the main event. Even though they had a really pretty redhead playing the violin in Nakamura's entrance, get her on TV more. And the choir singing Rude to the ring, that was pretty good. Do stuff like that to build Rude up as a big star like he is. But yeah, and you had the women's match. Mickie James making her return, looking pretty damn good. I mean, she had wrestled in TNA, obviously, after she left WWE, but hadn't been in the ring as actively the past few years, and looked really good. And thankfully, he's gotten signed to a full-time contract and needs to be revealed as Nikki's attacker. And hopefully she is soon. So, yeah, NXT TakeOver Toronto, great stuff. Toronto crowd was fantastic. Survivor Series, all the elimination matches I enjoyed. I enjoyed the 5-on-5 men's match the most. Goldberg squashing Lesnar was so shocking. But yeah, Survivor Series had a good pop to it. And I did a review of that, by the way. I also did a review of NXT TakeOver Toronto. Check those out. I really enjoyed those reviews, especially the Survivor Series one, because Chris was there. I was at his place. But NXT TakeOver Toronto is here at my house, enjoying that, and I enjoyed those reviews. But Survivor Series I enjoyed because it felt like Survivor Series again. It had the pop to it. So I liked it. NXT TakeOver Dallas. Zayn versus Nakamura. Joe versus Balor. American Alpha winning the tag titles from the Revival. Couple other matches. Corbin versus Aries wasn't all that good. Still, NXT TakeOver Dallas had the big feel. It was what WrestleMania should have been. Actually good. And number 1, the Royal Rumble. Owens versus Ambrose. And then you just had a lot of really good... You had a decently layered card, but then you had the Royal Rumble, which was one of the best additions they've done in a while. I mean, it was fantastic. It was for the title. Surprise debuts, returns, whatever. You had Styles come out number 3. Ambrose and Owens went out and, tore it up in there and everything. Styles, had a great showing. Zayn came back and returned. That was fantastic. Triple H appearing and throwing Reigns out, and wouldn't have been something if Ambrose would have won. That would have been fantastic. But that's what I'm going to say. The Royal Rumble, to me, best pay-per-view of the year. And I'm sticking to it. So, I mean, it's like NXT will rank just below it. Just below it. And it's like 1 and 1A. But anyway, that's what I have to say. So thank you again, Alfredo Reyes, 24, for suggesting this. I hope that you people enjoyed this. Do you agree? Do you disagree with how I rank these? Like, share, comment, and subscribe. My Twitter link is in the description. It's been Real Honesty with Jar Mifflin. I am Jar Mifflin, and I'll see you soon.